we tore down the old cabin because of the condition it was in. It was made out of old utility logs, and after standing for 60 years above ground, and those poles had been in the ground for 50 years before that, supposedly, and the logs were delaminating, it was rotting, and we needed something new. So when we built this new lodge, and that's something I'm going to do a video just on how we came about with this design and everything. But we decided on basically a shelter house with an enclosed kitchen. So some of the items that we put into it, I'll go through now. These windows are open to the weather, and didn't think about it, but these sills are just pine that have been stained, and we've had a couple of them already start to rot. I need to replace some more. That's why I'm getting this, that's why I'm trying to dry out this treated 2x6. I'm going to try staining it. If I can stain treated lumber to look like these, then that's what we'll go with. If not, I've originally replaced the first two with cedar, but that gets a little expensive. That cedar board, like this one down here, is 2 to 3 times the cost of the treated lumber. Originally, when we had it built, they made it with these screens that are basically nothing but big sails, and they just have a thin aluminum frame, which originally was just fine. But the problem is, these windows here, when the wind blows, they act as sails, and the wind seems to really get turbulent out here in this corner. And this corner window here would blow out, and these first two would always blow out. We still have the screens up here as backup. But about 4 years ago, I started slowly replacing these with wooden frames. That's when I noticed we were starting to get some rot down on the sills, because I mean the water just sits down here. You can see how muddy that is. So I've got a couple more to replace sills, and we've got 4 windows with the aluminum frames that have to be replaced. The 2 back ones on this side and the 2 back ones on that side. One thing we did, or I had them do, when they put in the concrete floor, we've got 2-inch pipe that runs out to the exterior to drain any water that comes in. And we laid perforated 4-inch sleeve pipe all along the east, west, and south foundation. Let's form a French drain around it. Any water that is in it flows down to the ditch down there. There's 2 4-inch pipes that come out. One is down here in the corner, and that is for the water. And what I do, I lay out of the pump room. Got to shut the door here. We have the water tree here. This is the water that comes from the pump. This tees off. The bottom is the water that goes to the bathrooms. It is now on. If I turn this on, it will turn the water on to the lodge. You can see we've got two pipes. 1-inch black PVC that comes in from the lake, and then 3/4 inch this clear that goes back out, and that's what runs to the corner pipe back here at the corner of the kitchen, and that provides the water system, or the water to the cabin. We have a shut-off valve. I know this looks like a Rube Goldberg mess, but it does have some science to it. When this lodge was built, there were two pipes put in back here. One is the drain pipe, and it runs out underneath the shower and then out to a dry well. All the water here and from the shower runs to a dry well that's over there by the yard barn. There is another pipe that comes in, 4-inch pipe that comes in through the west side and runs here and then continues under the floor to the shower room. I'll explain a little bit to them. This is the hot water that goes to the shower. We want to turn that off. We don't want any water flowing that way. If you can see, there's a drain down here. I have an extension pipe that comes out here that I can drain the water out to the floor drain. They're both open. I want to close those. This drains the hot water. This drains the cold water. Back behind here is the cold water. This is the line that goes up. This is the hot water line that goes to the shower. This is the cold water line that goes to the shower. And I turn it off back here, and it's off. And that's where I run the water pipes. This is the 3/4 inch pipe running in from the pump room. And everything is, all the valves are turned on right now. What I need to do is shut off this valve right here to turn off the water coming in from the pump room. Originally, we had two electrical lines running down here from the back of our neighbors. We had the original that came down to the old cabin and came in just about this area right here. And then we put in this secondary pole with the box for the RV plugs and that type thing. I thought we were going to have to pay to have a secondary line brought in, but luckily that box there has a feed through. So the electrician was able to feed through the electrical line, came through the yard right in here. And just brought it in through the side into our utility room. We brought the line comes up on the inside here, and this is our power box. It's a little bit overkill, and the reason for that is the original cabin had an actual fuse box in it originally that my dad had wired up. After a few years, he actually replaced the fuse box with a breaker box that only had probably 6 breakers in it. Over time, we kept adding things to it. Sometime in the early 1990s, I had put in ceiling fans in the old cabin, and so I needed some more circuits. And we put a 30 amp circuit going out to the side of the cabin for RV to connect to. So I took out that breaker box and I put in another breaker box with about 12 circuits. And over time that started to run out. We needed more space. So when I got an electrician to come in here, I had him put in the biggest home box that he had, and this I think has 25 circuits in it. You can see we've got it half full. I don't think we'll ever use all of these, but if we need to run more circuits, we've got them available. This is where the power comes in on the grate hole. And you can see down here that is the 4-inch pipe that comes in from outside with you can see a couple big lines. We've got 2 big lines here. Actually we got 3 because there's a third. We got the one running to the, we got 3 big lines. One running to the stove. This one running to the bathrooms. It comes out right about, probably about 1 foot to 2 feet behind that support there. Maybe you can see there's a crack there, and I wouldn't doubt that that's cracked where the pipe came out underneath it. And it runs back over here and goes under the water pipe. A pipe with the electrical line that comes in from the fuse box, breaker box inside. It's a 60 amp circuit. Basically it's 2 30 amp lines that come out. And this one running to the on-demand water heater. So they all go down underneath, along with all the power that feeds the so that all this power comes into the breaker box and then goes out. As I said, the stuff over here goes out through the 4-inch pipe, cabinets and countertops. Probably can't see it, but it actually comes out back underneath this corner cabinet. I've got a rope in there so that if we need to pull another line through, we can pull it through. And you always want to hook another rope to it so that you're always pulling a rope through and you always got a rope available. But back here in the back also, where it comes out, it also, as I showed you, the electrical lines go out and tee off into the pavilion so that we've got power going out to the pavilion also. 4-inch PVC runs all the way across the kitchen into the utility room where we have the power circuit box. You can see that is one. It comes in on the other side of the kitchen, and I have a branch that comes off and comes in here so that I could run power into the pavilion. And what we did not want to do was have to run wires through the logs, cut out the logs to run electrical. So all the electrical is run on the outside, and this is the power from the outside. So everything we've got You can see the power comes out from behind here. And is fed to these outlets, this outlet strip. And then it's fed over to an outlet strip over here. Then it goes behind, comes out of that PVC pipe. We've got the one wire, big wire that feeds the stove. There's another big wire that goes all the way around and feeds the hot water heater. See, it comes in the hole over there, just below the water heater. And then it also comes up, feeds this strip, and we've got another one that comes up in the corner, feeds this strip. Each one of these strips is on a 20-volt line. So our 20 amp line, so that they're hopefully not going to have any tripping when we have everybody out here. There's another outlet bar here, and there's a 4 outlet connector in the back that the refrigerator freezer is plugged into. And that's how we get the power to the cabinets and around. I just use this surface metal to put the wire behind so that we didn't have any wires that were actually showing. Stuff really worked out well. The other thing I do with the wire, with the electrical, we come out from the top and go up and we tee off. This way it goes up here and goes out to the pavilion to provide power for the overhead fans that we have out there. It comes out here. I took PVC conduit and painted it brown so it would fit into the logs. It comes down to our 4 switches here, 2 for the lights and 2 for the fans, and then just run along the beam, split it off here, and they go to the ceiling fans. It has worked out pretty nice. On real hot days when the breeze isn't here, those fans can provide a nice breeze. This also breaks off and goes to the left. That's what provides power. You come out, it comes to the side, over the top of the shelves. Right there, that junction box feeds into the shower room. You can see there's a hole up there that feeds into the kitchen. And then the lower line comes over, feeds the light switch, and an outlet down here. The electrical comes, like I said, through a hole out into this junction box, and there I break it off. You have one line that goes along to the side to go to the lights down at the west end, and then you also have a line that goes to these east lights. Down here we have switches. These are for the east and west lights, and then we have a switch and control for the fan, rotating fan. You can see we come out of that line and drop down. As I said, I use all this metal conduit to cover the wires. Keep it a little safer, make it look a little nicer than just have an exposed wire. After the lodge was completed, the two main tasks for me to do was get the electrical into the utility room, which I did, which allowed us then to run a few lines, and then bring the water in to underneath the kitchen window, and then figure out, the next thing we need to do is figure out what type of cabinets and how many cabinets we were going to have. My original drawing for the lodge had a 12-foot wide enclosed kitchen. 12 feet seemed a bit narrow to my sister Ann and her husband John Hatton. So with their input, we increased the width of the kitchen from 12 feet to 14 feet. From the door, I originally had cabinets showing along the wall from the door all the way down to the west wall and back to the pavilion door. That's about 24 feet from the west wall, so you had 24 feet by the 14 feet, and that was going to be a lot of cabinets. I am not that great on aesthetics, so I used a lot of input from my sister Ann and John, from my sister Kathy, and quite a bit from Connie, my wife. Connie's big thing after seeing varnished walls was we need to keep as much wood visible as possible. Once I started working out the number of cabinets we were going to need, we weren't going to need to completely cover each wall. The first thing we had to do was figure out where the stove and the sink, well, we had the sink was going to be set by where I'd put the pipes. The gray water and the pipe that allowed us to run water all came in underneath the kitchen window. Big kitchen window. So then it was a matter, my sisters and my wife and Connie decided that the refrigerator should go next to the sink, and that put the stove down at this end. This looks like a big space, and it is, but when we have our family reunions, I'm so glad that Ann and John thought to increase this to 14, because when we have our family reunions, there are a lot of people in this kitchen figuring out our cooking for the family reunion. So having a huge kitchen has really worked out well. Once we decided where the stove and the refrigerator were going to be, then it was a matter of just figuring out. Connie and I had purchased the sink cabinet, and I had we'd purchased a sink and faucets, and I got that all plumbed and hooked up. And then it was a matter of what else we were going to need. We knew that everyone decided that we shouldn't go any further past the pass-through window here. So Connie and I purchased the long cabinet here on the south wall next to the pavilion window, the pass-through window. And then we bought a small corner cabinet, and then that small cabinet that goes right next to the stove. Originally I took and put plywood or particle board on top as the top for these cabinets. Then we asked for donations, and people started donating so that we could buy the rest of these cabinets. You can see we've got, I think those are two 36-inch cabinets or 32-inch, I'm not sure, but right there next to the sink cabinet. Then we put a Lazy Susan in the corner. And then we've got those three cabinets. I think one's a double and one's a single. And it worked out perfectly. It fit in there just well. Except, I mean, we've got a little 4-inch gap, a 3-inch gap down there in the corner that I filled in with filler. And to me, it looks pretty good. We've filled in everything that we need. And the main thing we did, which won't cover these walls. The walls are just too pretty to be putting cabinets up. Plus, we've got more than enough storage in all these cabinets we've got here. My sister Ann wanted to have a cabinet down here on the end, which turned out to be a good idea. She thought when you're bringing supplies in or groceries in from the outside, it gives you some place to set stuff before you unpack, which has turned out to be a good idea. And that's sort of turned into the game cabinet where all the games and other things for the family reunion are kept. The rest are used basically for the kitchen. Some of them are almost empty, but one of these days I think we'll get them filled in. But the main thing was all these cabinets were donated. We didn't have it in our budget to buy all these cabinets at first, so members donated the money or donated the cabinets so that we could fill this out. And once we got the cabinets done, I put particle board countertops on them. Just for temporary, so we had some place to put things. That was the next big expenditure. We tried to determine what type of countertop to get. Connie and I did some research at Lowe's and Menards to see what the cost and what types of countertops we should look for. We actually went with granite and lasts the longest. This is not an easy environment out here with all the people that use this. So we wanted something that would hold up under the wear and tear, would be easy to take care of, and last us for as long as this cabin. So we decided to go with granite. John Hatton had someone who went to his church that had a stone company up in Zionsville, it's actually outside of Westfield. And we contacted them. John and Ann and Connie and I went to their showroom and we picked out this granite, which I had very little to do other than drive Connie up there. Connie and Ann basically came up with the style of granite. Then that spring, they sent down a gentleman who took a laser. I had to level all these cabinets and attach them. On the north and west wall, there is a 4-inch lip of concrete that the logs sit on, and the log sits back about 4 inches from the edge of the concrete. So all of these cabinets had to be pushed out about 4 inches. It's actually was the width of a 2x4. So I was able to put 2x4s in to support these cabinets from behind. And even though there isn't the same gap over here on the south wall to the pavilion, I went ahead and continued that gap so that everything would be the same. Once I got everything leveled and attached to the walls, they came down here, a gentleman came down with a laser, and they actually measured all of the countertop using the laser. Then about 2 months later, they came down with the cut product and they installed all the granite. Gave us instructions on how to take care of it, but I had left off all of the trim on the windows, and I had not yet started the electrical conduits until they got the cabinets in, so we know the height of the backsplash. And they got that done in the spring. And then that allowed us to start doing the electrical work in here. The water comes in through a 3-inch pipe back here in the corner, like I showed. It runs to underneath the main kitchen window, where there's an outlet right behind the gray water. You can see the PEX, blue PEX, going down into it, and the 3/4 inch water pipe from the bathroom and from the pump come in here. It feeds this piping and then goes back out. There's a valve here for the hot and a valve here for the cold to go out to the shower. It goes out through the blue PEX pipe, goes underneath the flooring, and then over here there's an outlet that's almost covered up by the base of the shower. But it comes out here and it goes up into the back wall of the shower. I built the back wall of the shower as a unit so that if there's any problem with the piping or with the valves, leaks or whatever else, all you have to do is remove the surround glass and then remove that panel to access the water system. There's 2 screws up to the top and there's 2 screws onto the side, and that whole panel will come off as one, and then all you have to do is break the water pipes loose from their connectors, and you can take the whole unit out so that you can access the valve and the pipes.
So is it nailed in or is it screwed in, or?
What's that?
That panel, does it get nailed in or does it get screwed in?
No, it's this panel, I'm gonna push it forward. There's 2 screws that will hold it, 2 screws will hold it down there, and then this panel comes over and will hold it in place.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The sink outlet, and that's a 3rd line that we've got running. It runs from here. We've got the water line that runs to the shower room, and we have the gray water discharge. They both run under the floor here and into the shower room. And we pick up the drain here, and that's for the gray water that comes out of the shower. That runs on out, access the shower room just about in this area where my foot is, probably about 2 feet from the edge, and comes over to a dry well that we put out here. This used to be a huge sinkhole in here, and that is a dry well 50-gallon barrel I bought from Menards for the purpose, and then just put a vent on top to help dry it out. It has 2 arms that go out, a perforated pipe, about 3 to 4 feet each, to help drain it off when it's filled. But again, since we built that and had 2012, 2013, whenever it was we built, we've had no problems with the gray water. So until the next time, everyone be safe, and we'll see you then.